Dispatch had received a call of a possible body that had been wrapped in a tarp. A lady who lives in the neighborhood was out taking her dog for a walk, as she always did, and the dog started pulling to the wood line in this area called Clark's Sand Pit.
It used to be a pond where they mined sediment. So there's this giant dead end. A lot of people use that area for dumping just random stuff simply because it's not an area where people live.
The first thing you could notice when you got down there was the smell. Decomposition of a human body, once you smell it, is something that you never forget. Almost adjacent from the body in the roadway was a half sheet, like it had been broken in half, of sheetrock. And the sheetrock had a good tire impression, and there was also a visible footprint.
There was also orange twine that didn't appear to be weathered. So if an object had been left out there for a long time, there would have been weathering to it. We kind of put two and two together to determine that these objects probably, or more likely, all came together during the time of the body dump.
We initially observed this white male that is bound with duct tape, not only on his body, his hands, but what was very distinguishable was he had duct tape wrapped all the way around his face. You could still see that the fingerprints were intact. So we had crime scene take an inked impression. We rushed it back to our fingerprint lab, and they were able to ID him as a Charles Locke. When we arrived, we noticed it was basically unkept. A lot of grown-up shrub and bushes around there. We go try to make contact. We couldn't get anybody to come to the door.
So after attempting contact at Charles Locke's residence, we observed that teeter-tottering both properties of Charles Locke and his neighbor was a trash can. And in that trash can, we observed some broken sheetrock, as well as those orange pies that we had also seen at the scene.
A light bulb came on at that time. I mean, could this just be a coincidence, or are we kind of on to something?
We don't know at this point whether Calvin Allison's a witness or a suspect. But given the fact that we do have items that are at his residence, which are also at the scene, there was a good possibility he was a suspect.
What's up, Calvin?
Not much.
My name's Investigator Alvarez, Sergeant Martins.
Calvin Allison was a transplant from Oklahoma to Pensacola. He brought his wife and his 2 children down here. He worked for the local utility company.
You might want
coffee? I made some coffee.
No, I don't like.
He just seemed like your typical good old country boy.
I did find it odd during the interview that he was so calm. A lot of times in murder cases, people are immediately curious to why they're there and they want to provide an alibi. I mean, we spent a tremendous amount of time before we even brought up Charles Locke for the most part.
How long have you known Charles for?
We met him a little bit after we moved in. We talked to him a couple of times, but then we didn't really start talking to him until when his wife left him. And he came over, and my wife's...
I'm sorry, when did his wife leave him, by the way?
A year and a half ago.
Okay. Did he come over frequently, or did you guys go over there frequently to see him, or were those circumstances?
About once a week, we would take him a plate if we cooked out, but he would come over sometimes and sit down. He came over for Thanksgiving and Christmas dinner. We came over.
When was the last time you had seen Charles?
Sunday night, when I took him the plate, took him a pork chop dinner. We cooked on the grill.
Investigator Alvarez does a great job of just getting that buy-in from him. And the whole time this is going on, I'm starting to receive text and phone calls from my guys that are giving me bits of information from the scene. The first thing that investigators noticed was that there was a medium-sized pool of blood there in the living room area. As they made their way throughout the house, there was another area that the carpet was saturated in blood, and there appeared to be drag marks that they had also located across the carpet. So when that initial evidence is found, okay, we have the location where this crime occurred.
How did your tire, your left front tire, because you have 4 different tires on that truck, your left front tire's cupped. Okay, you know what that is, right? Cupped. All right, it's when you ran over the sheetrock, it left the black tire marks on there that matches your tire. Now either you got some luck, okay?
I didn't do it.
And who did it?
I can't tell you, but
No.
I didn't do it.
You were there.
I wasn't there.
Calvin.
I've been at work and with.
As the investigators are going through the house, there was evidence that indicated Mr. Locke might be living an alternative lifestyle and liked to dress up as a female. There were bras, panties, all types of women's clothes. So then we start thinking, okay, what if when Mr. Allison comes over to his house to bring him food or something of that nature, does Charles Locke make a pass at him or say something ordinary, you know, in a suggestive sexual way?
Charles has a little fetish that a lot of people don't know about. I think Charles come on to you
No,
and went bad. If that's the case, I can buy that.
that never happened.
Okay, then man, I'm telling you, I'm all ears. I'll take notes. You tell me.
When Sergeant Barnes presented that topic of Charles Locke's sexuality, it was kind of a shot in the dark. A lot of times we might throw out a theory that, you know, we might not know it's 100% factual or not, because at this point we have a body dump, we know there's foul play, and we just needed to be able to place Calvin Allison as the individual who did it. It didn't matter the circumstances behind it for the most part.
I need to know what happened, Calvin. Otherwise, we're in a bad situation, buddy. I think maybe Charles did something that he wasn't supposed to do. And I think Charles dead because of that. No, listen to your boss, okay? Calvin, look at me.
He started to get lower and lower and drop down, at which point I placed my hand onto his leg. It was almost like saying it's okay to come off of this, and that, you know, by telling the truth, you know, all this stress and all this anxiety and all this pent up, you know, negative energy you have is gonna go away.
Tell me what happened, buddy. I ain't here to mess you up or anything, man. I need to know what happened over there.
He tried to kiss me.
He tried to kiss you.
Grabbed me. And I pushed him down. I don't think he hit his head on the, I don't know what it was. The blood was coming out.
It's okay, Calvin.
No, it's not okay.
Once I saw he started opening up, I packed my stuff up. I knew that Investigator Alvarez had him. There was no need for me to be in there. I felt like just because I had been a little more confrontational, that he might hold back some.
Hello.
Hey,
What is going on, Calvin?
I did something bad.
Why?
I took him the food. Want to set it down in the kitchen. He made a pass at me and I pushed him and he fell. His head, blood went everywhere and I panicked.
What do you mean he made a pass at you?
He tried to kiss me.
What? Why would you not say something? Like, why would it was an accident, Calvin? Oh my God, Calvin, like, why would you not have called 911? It was an accident. So what are you being charged with right now?
I don't know.
Oh my God, Calvin.
I'm gonna stand on that. Turn around, Katrina. How's your back for us?
In Florida, it's called the justifiable use of deadly force and justifiable use of non-deadly force. And it was a theory that the defense obviously went with because they said he tried to kiss him and made a move. And maybe in his mind, he was trying to come up with an excuse of what happened and why it happened. You know, personally, I don't believe him. And just because Sergeant Barnes kind of gave him that story as an out. And there was more evidence that was developed later on, you know, which obviously made the case a lot stronger. I think he took out $800 one day and then $600 the other 2 days. We may never know what happened. I don't believe it was because he tried to kiss him. I believe there was something more than that.
I don't believe that story. Calvin Allison did not just come up with that and say, this is what happened. I felt like the reason Calvin gave for what happened was really prompted by the information that the detectives were giving him